The opinions expressed by the host and guests in this show are not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defense.
Well, good morning, Children's Health Defense Television, Ph.D. TV. This is your host, Brian Hooker, and if you see my face, then it must be Friday, and it's Friday, December 5th. Doctors and scientists, we have such a treat. Last week, we had Dr. Nancy Tarlow start talking about chronic diseases and giving a presentation regarding the sources of chronic disease and how to prevent chronic disease. Well, we didn't get far enough. And this is such an important topic that I wanted to have Dr. Nancy back. Dr. Nancy, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming back. We're so fortunate to have you back. How are you?
I'm doing really well, and I always love coming on and having conversations with you, Brian. So I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for being willing to come back. And I'm so thankful for your work. You've done so much over your career. How long have you been in chiropractic? You've been doing this a long time.
So I graduated in 93. I first went to the chiropractor in 1989. I was 29 years old. I had suffered with a ton of chronic health problems, gut issues, severe allergies. I was constantly sick, bronchial and sinus infections. And what happened was I went to the chiropractor for low back pain, but within about 6 weeks, all these other issues cleared up. Like my allergies, environmental allergy symptoms went away. I didn't get sick anymore. I've never had another bronchial or sinus infection. I was getting them 2 to 4 times a year. It was very significant. It changed my life. I was able to start living again. I could go outside and enjoy myself, where before I'd always have to worry. I had an EpiPen I had at all times,
Oh my
just
goodness.
in case I had a severe, which I've had. I had
Right.
2 very severe reactions where I wound up in the hospital from mold in the air. And
Wow.
yeah, where I used to go for, jogging. So, I decided immediately to become a chiropractor. I had been in marketing and, just not feeling fulfilled. I had started out as a pre-med major undergraduate, so it didn't take much to get all the other credits I needed to get into chiropractic school.
Well, chiropractic school is very, very rigorous, and I don't think people have an appreciation for that. I've had several of my former students when I was teaching undergrad biology go into chiropractic school, and the education that they get is very very, very comprehensive, and I think that they spend probably more physical hours in class than somebody that's in medical school. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like you get into the clinic earlier in medical school. But I was extremely impressed, and I have to echo, what you've said from my experience with chiropractic. It's not, people tend to think of them more like, oh, you're a physical therapist and you can help me if something structurally hurts, but there's so much more to it.
Yeah, the first 2 years are identical to medical school. We use the same books. We're studying the same subjects, physiology, neurophysiology. We're both doing, anatomy, we're gross anatomy. The difference is that we don't get trained in toxicology. We're not trained in using medication. So we're not getting that training.
Right.
But we have the same number of hours, but we have more hours actually in dissection. So if you compare the programs, we're actually getting more hands-on in dissection than a medical student would. So that really shocks a lot of people, but I think people don't give us enough credit. We're learning biochemistry. We learn how to run labs. We learn the things that they learn, except we're focused on, of course, they don't learn palpation of the spine. They're not learning chiropractic techniques, so that's really the only difference the first 2 years.
Well, it's absolutely amazing. And I want to jump back into our presentation because it's so important. We're talking about stress. There is absolutely no doubt that there's an increase in stress, physical stress, psychological stress, cortisol, the stress hormone being secreted. So let's jump back in.
Yeah, so stress is, as you said, there's a lot of different factors to stress. Environmental toxins, air pollution, all that other junk that's coming out. But, the main thing to think about is also inflammation. So when we're under stressed, we're going to be more inflamed. That is a fact. There's no disputing that. So managing stress is really important, but also understanding that inflammatory foods can cause stress. So it works both ways. It's not a one-way street. The top stressor for foods is sugar. And, I'm really going to stress you to read the labels of any kind of packaged foods you buy, because you may be really surprised that, especially gluten-free products, it's like they put a lot of sugar in there to mask the taste. It's not going to taste as well. Seed oils, we know are very inflammatory. These are proven. We know this for a fact. Processed foods, as I mentioned, read the labels. Anything that's super high in omega-6s, grains and beans. So when I say grains, I'm also including rice into that. I'm
Mhm.
including corn.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not just wheat, it's not just barley, it's not just oats. All those things have a high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, and that's more likely to cause inflammation. I did a year-long program on inflammation in food, and the doctor I worked with, Dr. David Seaman, he actually showed us the biochemistry of how this works. By eating too many inflammatory foods, that's going to trigger this inflammatory reaction in the body. Now, a little bit of inflammation's fine. That's normal. But if you overwhelm the body, that's when it becomes a problem.
It's so interesting. And the the administration, HHS, is going to be coming out with new dietary guidelines. And we have to have you back to talk about those dietary guidelines, because I think it's going to be much, much different than, what we've been bought and sold that basically supports big ag and big sugar, the food pyramid. But this is such an important area. And, given that so much of our input daily is food.
And I would tell you, I'm a creature of comfort also and convenience. I'm not perfect, even though I recommend eating whole foods as often as you can. But for instance, I recently found packaged French fries that are cooked in beef tallow. And,
Right.
there's three ingredients: beef tallow, potatoes, and salt. And that's it. So again, the biggest takeaway from the food aspect is whole foods, and read the labels if you're going to buy anything packaged. So avoid those things that we just talked about. And the other thing I want to mention is eating a dinner of whole foods doesn't have to be difficult. Throw some chicken in the oven, throw some green beans in the steamer. Those are whole foods. You're not
Mhm.
going to have to, throw some butter on it, and try to eat organic as much as possible. Yeah. So the other big thing to understand is what happens when our nervous system gets dysregulated. And we are constantly under stress, whether, again, we talked about environmental toxins, thoughts. If you watch the news, the biggest thing I can ask people to do is stop watching the news, or like, even if you're on X or some of these other platforms, and you're feeling stressed all the time, if you just push that aside, you're going to be amazing to feel how your body relaxes. And we tend to hold stress in our jaws because we're preparing for battle.
Right.
We're in that survival mode. So we're clenching, our shoulders are coming up. More than likely, if you're under constant stress, you're getting headaches, upper back pain. Constant stress will also cause your hands to get cold, because your body's reallocating its resources to your heart, lungs, and brain. So that's the reason why people with chronic stress tend to have gut issues. It's not unusual. The two go hand in hand. Maybe they're having difficulties with their heart and I mean, you know about the heart and the lungs, but you may not
Right.
connect the dots to the GI tract. So that's the problem with this sympathetic dominant state. Your body is just trying to survive. And again, it doesn't mean that being in survival mode is bad, because our body, to be effective, we need short bursts of that. The problem is when we're in that all the time. So some things you can look at are the bowels, but also start checking your blood pressure every day. If your blood pressure is high every day, you're going to notice an issue with that, and it's going to affect other problems. That's an easy way you can do it. And then start doing some belly breathing. And we'll talk about the fixes in just a minute for nervous system dysregulation.
I'm glad that you mentioned the gut, because there are so many gut issues that society has right now. You look at Crohn's disease, you look at ulcerative colitis, you look at IBS, and we have all these diagnoses. One of the treatments is to get rid of stress in your life. Absolutely.
Yeah. And we know now something new that's over the past few years, we know that there's a direct connection from the gut to the brain. So if your gut's inflamed, you're going to have other issues like maybe behavioral issues or focus or memory issues because your brain is inflamed. So it's easier to just start at the gut and work on clearing that out. Again, these are all the different, I'm not going to run through these all because there's a lot here, but on the left-hand side are all the short-term responses to stress, energy up, immune system is actually initially stronger, digestion and sexuality goes down. Again, that's short term, but if you allow the stress to continue without tackling it and doing something about it, then you're going to have this constant immune system problem. You're going to see that there's a problem with memory and learning. You're going to be tired because your body needs to rest to try to repair itself. So it's going to make you tired. So if you feel tired, listen to your body, take that nap. Try to, if you can, adjust your schedule so you can maybe get a little nap in the middle of the day. And I have to tell you, I think one of the biggest problems I see is because chronic stress can also cause weight gain, is I see a lot of people saying, oh, I'm gaining weight, I need to work out harder. That's absolutely the worst thing you can do. Your body's trying to repair itself. If you're pushing it, you're going to develop adrenal fatigue, and that could cause other things to come in like, chronic health problems. So listen to your body, try to listen to your intuition, and don't let fear drive your decisions.
Be logical about what you've done, what you've done to your body, what your body is going through. And I think that just the stressful lifestyle, that cortisol ends up in your body. And for guys like me, it's belly fat. It is absolutely, completely belly fat. And yeah, it does help to put the fork down, but it also helps to be able to alleviate stress.
And if you think about it, we know that this thing called comfort foods, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So comfort foods is we're feeling stressed. We're going to be drawn to things that are fattening because they're comforting. My comfort food happens to be potatoes. I love potatoes.
So good.
So one of the swaps I've made recently is white potatoes. I'm now eating sweet potatoes, which are far healthier for you. I still put butter on it, but I put a lot of cinnamon on it, which is good for the digestive tract. So making those swaps is very important. But I've actually had people lose weight without dieting, without exercising more, simply by changing the way their nervous system handles stress. They get out of that, hypersympathetic survival mode, and their body naturally starts regulating itself. They find that they're not drawn to those sugary foods anymore. So it's really about letting the body do what it's supposed to do. Our body's really intelligent, and we just have to listen to that innate intelligence.
Absolutely.
Number one, this is the easiest thing you can do if you have chronic health problems, is start drinking high quality water in adequate amounts. I usually recommend about half your body weight in ounces. So if you're 200 pounds, start doing 100 ounces a day. And you got to be mindful though. And a lot of times people are not drinking enough water because they're drinking, 2 cups of coffee, they're drinking soda, they're drinking tea. I'm talking about just straight water. Now, you don't necessarily need half your body weight in ounces, but I'm going to ask you to just start by replacing all those other drinks with just water. So I put think positive thoughts. So, we know of the work of Dr. Emoto as far as what negative thinking can do when you're eating or drinking. So I'm just going to put that little thing out there, try to think some positive thoughts. And I recently discovered something called Santivia, which is a water filtration system. It'll filtrate out fluoride and other chemicals in the water, but also it adds minerals. And I actually put in a reverse osmosis system in my sink,
Right.
but the water felt dead. So I
Mhm.
decided I went and put a whole house filtration system on. Not good enough. So I bought the Santivia system. I fill it up every day, and that's the water I'm drinking. And I do feel a difference. It's not as expensive as those other water filtration systems out there. So that's why I'm making that suggestion, is to look at that Santivia.
So that actually, does that replace minerals as well in the water, or?
Yes.
Okay,
So
that's
yeah,
amazing.
so they have in the filter, they actually have something in there to put the minerals back. And then in the bottom, it comes with these little stones that you put that the water is, somehow, I don't know the details of how it works, but, that's the way they build it. And I definitely noticed the difference in drinking that versus the RO water and just the plain filtration. Now, I live in an area that does not put fluoride in the water, thankfully, but there's so much other stuff in the water that's not getting filtered out.
Absolutely. You
So
need it. You need it. We used to live in a neighborhood where we would get these letters in the mail about high arsenic in our municipal water supply. So no, filtered water. Do not, do not drink water from the tap.
yeah, but even if you have a well, you need
Yeah.
to get the water tested. So the house that we owned in Pennsylvania, we had it tested, and there was like a really high level of, I think it was lead and copper,
Ooh.
maybe. I mean,
Oh,
like
okay.
things that were off the charts. So we did have a whole house RO system, and then we had an alkalizer. I think it cost us like, $6,000. This
Right.
little Santee, so the whole house filter that I got, which doesn't have RO, was, I want to say, like $1,200, and then the Santivia was about 300 or 400. So
Mhm.
much more reasonably priced. So that's why I start with water. We need good water to help our body detoxify our cells.
Absolutely. And these may sound expensive, is 6,000, 1,200, but think of the convenience cost of not doing that, the cost of detoxifying, the cost of being tired and stressed out all the time, the cost of not being able to lose weight because of cortisol. I mean, these things that they may be inconvenient on the front end. You always have to look at the benefits on the back end, and there are so many.
Yeah, well, the cost of cancer, right? I
Wow.
mean, if you think about it, if you're going to put toxins, chemicals in your body, that's going to degrade your body, and it could lead to cancer. I mean,
Exactly.
and everybody's different. Everybody has a different, I call it blueprint. So some people genetically can handle more toxins than others, but why risk it? As I said, drinking, good, clean water is not that expensive in the scheme of things.
Exactly.
My second priority here is healing the gut. We were just talking about that before. This is, for me, a huge priority. We want to reduce inflammation because, as we talked about, an inflamed gut will also cause an inflamed brain. An inflamed gut will also make it harder for your body to eliminate It'll make it harder for you to digest food. It will make it harder for your body to absorb the nutrients from your foods and your supplements. So if your gut is super inflamed, those supplements that you're taking may just be not doing anything. They may just be eliminating in your body. So that's why I put that as a top priority. Number one was, water. Number two is healing the gut. And you can do that through various foods. If you want to email me, I will send you a list of inflammatory foods and non-inflammatory foods. I'm happy to do that. You can go to drtarlow@gmail.com. So we want to work on healthy bowel movements. One of the ways I've learned through the years is if you're not eliminating every day, you're supposed to eliminate 2 to 3 times a day. But if you're not eliminating every day, that could be another cause of chronic health problems. You might have parasites in there. You might have candida. So many things could be going on. So working on getting healthy bowel movements. And that's something I can work on with people, but you may have somebody that you work with locally who can help you. One of the things I recently discovered, well, actually recently, I should say, I discovered it when I was having gallbladder problems over almost 25 years ago, were colonics. Colonics, go to someone who's certified. That will help you get rid of all that stuff stuck in the little pockets in your ileum. And if you have like small poops or you have little pebbly ones, that's not good. It'll help clean you out. And again, if you're working with somebody, I don't suggest doing this without working with a practitioner. If you know that you've got yeast or candida or parasites, you might need a binder, and that's just going to help you get rid of all that crap, literally, even better. Food sensitivities, I suggest doing a food diary. You can do very expensive food sensitivity tests, but the truth is they're a moment in time. When you get the blood work done, they're not as reliable as you actually doing a diary of listing what you eat and notice, are you feeling fatigued? Are you feeling inflamed? That's how you can really understand your specific food sensitivities. Lyme and mold, we could do a whole episode we could do like 5 episodes on that. And then the other thing I recommend is taking a very good digestive enzyme, help your body break down the food. And L-glutamine is also very important. I thought I had that on the there it is, leaky gut.
Leaky gut, yeah.
And then a good probiotic. But you have to be careful with probiotics, because if you're not digesting your food well, if your gut is inflamed, probiotics can actually cause more inflammation. So, I really suggest you work with someone who can help guide you through the process.
I can't agree more. You said it several times that you need a practitioner to guide you through this. And people are like, oh, I'm not that sick. I don't need to see a, doctor, an integrative physician, a chiropractor, naturopath, whatever. No, actually, it is helpful. The idea is that we're not putting up anymore with substandard health. So if you're just feeling sluggish or something like that, that is a health issue. That is probably tied to some inflammatory process in the gut. And so therefore, don't do it on your own. Don't, everybody armchair quarterbacks, other people in their lives. Don't do that for yourself. Get a good practitioner. And then if you can't find a good practitioner in your area, email Dr. Tarlow, email me, drbrianhooker@gmail.com. And we can help you find one.
Yeah, and a lot of chiropractors do this kind of work.
Right.
So, and what's great about going to a chiropractor is they can also address the function in the spine that can affect your gut as well. So chiropractic is a great tool. Not everyone can afford it, but you'd be surprised if you talk to a chiropractor personally, you don't think you can afford it, let them know, I'd really like to try chiropractic care, but I need a little help with the finances. There are plenty that will help out. I think chiropractors go into this field because we want to help people, number one.
You got into it to be rich and famous. No,
yeah. That's right. I'm driving a Toyota RAV4. So nervous system balance, that's, to me, number one is water. healing the gut and healing the nervous system actually go together. They're both equally important. Chiropractic, I list as number one, because when you get chiropractic care, it can help regulate the nervous system. It can help bring your nervous system into balance and get you out of that survival mode. As I mentioned before, for me, chiropractic helped me with issues I'd had my whole life. I started chiropractic care at the age of 29. I had food allergies and environmental allergies my entire life. I had these sinus and bronchial infections my entire life, severe menstrual cramps. All that went away within 3 months of going for chiropractic care, and they've never come back. I mean, I'm too old to have menstrual cramps at this point, but those cramps never came back. They were gone, or they were reduced enough that it was just like a little minor thing. The other things I love are humming or singing softly, doing deep belly breaths. I have a Facebook group now called Blueprint to Heal. I'm going to be covering a lot of these things as far as how to regulate the nervous system, because I do think it's so important. And I'm going to be offering things that you can do in the privacy of your home or your backyard, like grounding. This morning I was outside taking in the sun and my feet were planted on the ground. I was feeling that earth's energy coming up through my feet. And you can see the other things I recommend: avoiding stimulants, coffee, sugar, chemicals. I love tension tamer tea. If you're feeling stress, it's very calming. Chamomile, and listen to solfeggio frequencies. You can grab them on YouTube. Less screen time. We know that every time you're using those screens, it's also putting people into that fight or flight state. I mean, again, there's been a lot of research on that. And then EMF, again, we could do whole segments just on screens and EMF reducers. I would suggest finding ones that feel right for you. So all these things are very beneficial for helping return the nervous system to balance.
Exactly. So good. And talk about brainwave and biofeedback, because those, I think they're super, super important.
So biofeedback is, again, this is something that I'll be teaching in my group, is that what I suggest is getting like a blood pressure cuff that also will measure your heart rate. And you need to know what those healthy boundaries are, respiration. And then what you can do is just take like 3 to 5 minutes, do that deep belly breathing, picture yourself at a beach, whatever makes you feel great. Maybe it's being with somebody that you love, or maybe it's sitting at the ocean and listening to the sound of the waves. And do that for 5 minutes and then recheck. That's basically what biofeedback is. You are using, it's like mind over matter. You're using your brain and your thoughts to change how your body's dealing with stress. What can we do to help us reduce stress? Because it's all about stress and inflammation. Smiling, we know, reduces endorphins. So let's say you're somebody that, like, you're reading, I won't say the newspaper because I don't know anybody who reads the newspaper anymore, but you're watching the news and you're feeling like, you're just feeling like a mess. Stop that and then think of something that gives you joy. And smile, even if you're by yourself or with other people. Put your earbuds in and pretend that you're listening to something that brings you joy, and just start smiling. You will feel a change in your physiology. You'll feel your shoulders relaxing. You'll feel these muscles in your head relaxing. You might even feel your jaw relax. So smiling is really important. And then work on building bridges, like with people. These last few years with COVID were crazy. We have a lot of people that are disconnected from their loved ones. And then with what's going on in the country politically. So I'm going to suggest, talk to your friends, your neighbors that you haven't really communicated with a long time. Agree to disagree on certain things, or not even raise certain topics. Talk about the things you have in common and the things that are important, and work from there to help build bridges in your community. So these are the things that I feel are really important to help us get healthier.
Exactly. And I think that putting a premium on personal happiness is so absolutely important. I read a book right when we started our journey of healing for my son's autism called Happiness is a Choice. It's a wonderful book. And I loved that it was user friendly. I didn't need to hear somebody's, waxing on and on about how great happiness is, but it helps you like, okay, yeah, I'm not happy. How do I become happy? And I think that a lot of people are in that position, especially if they're just saturated with the media that we can be saturated with in the internet age.
Yeah, and also I like a good movie as much as the next guy. I like a good TV show, but I choose whenever I can to watch comedies. And
Yeah.
if I'm watching something that I think that's very interesting, but I feel my physiology changing in a very negative way, I'll just turn it off. And people are like, "How can you stop watching it? Don't you want to see what happens?" I'm like, "No, I
No.
don't like it. I don't like how I'm feeling in my body." Dancing or listening to music is one of the greatest ways to feel happy. I grew up, I went to high school in the 70s, right? So Bruce Springsteen and Prince and
Right.
Queen, all that stuff. I really love listening to that because it just brings me back to really joyful time.
If you are a passenger in my car, it is a requirement that you sing along.
That's great. I love that. They say 5 hugs a day, right? If you can find 5 people to hug a day, if you can start building those bridges back instead of walls with your
Right.
neighbors, you want to be able to go outside and smile at people as they're walking by. I moved into this neighborhood in July. I go outside whenever I can when I see people walking by, so I can smile and say, hi, nice to meet you, or hope you're having a great day, because it makes me feel better, and you see a smile on their face too. So I know I'm helping someone have a better day as well.
Absolutely. Well, you're helping us have a better day. And Dr. Nancy, thank you so much for coming on the show twice. This is so important. I want people to tell your friends to watch both episodes this last week, which was November 28th, and this week, December 5th, to really get motivated, get charged up to do the right things, especially as we head into this holiday season. We know that holidays, especially with families, can be minefields, but let's just start it out right.
Yeah. Yeah. Just agree to disagree up front. Say, hey,
Yeah.
I want to see you over the holidays. Let's agree in advance not to talk about politics, because that is the biggest thing. Of course, it feels like every day the media is trying to, poke the bear, and now it's, oh, well, RFK Jr. wants to get rid of this or that,
Right,
So
right.
just say, look, if you want to have a conversation, civil conversation, I'd love to do that. But I want to have a relationship with you. And that's how we win when we build these bridges with our community. We win. And, the powers that be don't, because they want us divided. So let's say, you know what? I don't want to be divided anymore. I want to build bridges. And if people don't want it, then just avoid them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Dr. Nancy. So great to have you on the show. We're going to have you back, and God bless you for your work.
Oh, thank you so much. And God bless you for your work.
All right. And thank you, everybody, for joining us for this episode of Doctors and Scientists. You saw it here. Tell your friends to watch these last 2 episodes, specifically with Dr. Nancy, and have a great day.
We are live. So can you tell us your name, please?
Lori Green.
And so you took 2 Pfizer shots. So let's go back. Tell us a bit of a history of who you are and how you came to that.
Sure. So in December of 2020, I was 12 years into my career at the U.S. Army, Joint Base Lewis McChord, Director of Emergency Services, where I serviced all of the computers at 7 fire departments, 2 police stations, and all the gates. As such, as an emergency responder, I had to take the COVID vaccine in the first round. So if I didn't, other people would get sick if I got COVID. It was my duty to do the right thing.
So you took the shots because it was your duty?
Yes. I also took the shots because I believe in the vaccine program. I'm a measles non-responder. So if I'm exposed to measles, I will get it because the vaccine just doesn't work on me.
Okay. So when you took the first Pfizer, how did you feel?
So I see in my phone, because I did lose my memory, so I have to go historical of what I said, that I had a headache within 3 days. And it wasn't just any headache. I just couldn't get out of bed. And then on January 6th, I went to work, and I really don't remember what happened other than my boss telling me to go home. And that's really the last actual real memory I have for the next 2 years. So I have had to go back and piece together my life, and it's horrible, you know.
So even though you had this horrible headache after the first Pfizer, but you still went and had another Pfizer.
Well, we were told that we would have side effects. The Army gave us a 12-page pamphlet, and it was actually put out by one of my eventual doctors, the director of public health at Joint Base Lewis McChord. I now know, after researching on the CDC website, that those 12 pages are almost all of the information that was ever published by the federal government about COVID vaccine adverse reactions. And it just said that symptoms would be possible, and expect them, is what we were told. So when I got a headache, I didn't really think anything of it. But then I also didn't remember how sick I was. I didn't realize I lost my memory. In April of 2021, my boss and my children forced me to go to the emergency room. My husband was deployed for that year, so he wasn't home. I went there. I think I had an MRI. I was diagnosed with IBS, migraines, and I have a laundry list. I wrote it down because I really don't remember everything without writing.
Sure, do you want to just
Sure.
tell us about it?
So I have vertigo, I have vestibular migraine, acute glaucoma, body aches, chills, insomnia, tinnitus. I have 3 types of tinnitus. I have one that's right around 13,000 hertz, one that drowns out at 83 decibels if I'm in the right room with my equipment that I run to neutralize the tinnitus, and one that sounds like a thunderstorm. And the thunderstorm, it keeps me up at night. So at the time I wasn't even sleeping. As soon as my eyes hit REM and my eyes move, the tinnitus goes off in my head so I can hear my eyes move. I was given amitriptyline eventually by neurology, and that actually just knocks me out at night. I don't have dreams. I don't remember any dreams. It's just I lay down and I basically pass out, and then eventually I wake up. I don't feel like I've actually slept in 3 years. I have no detectable antibodies of COVID. I've been tested multiple times, nucleocaspids. I've just never gotten COVID. However, when I'm exposed to COVID, I end up in the emergency room reliving all the symptoms I've already gone through with no antibodies. So do I get COVID at a cellular level? I don't know, because the military doesn't test that. I have severe hypertension, which I had to discover myself by using a microscope, because the Army wasn't testing me for anything outside of the protocol that doesn't exist. They have nothing in the computer system to help diagnose and treat vaccine injuries. I know this. I FOIA'd it. I've done an Inspector General report with the Defense Health Agency. There is no protocol. It doesn't exist. Sound makes me sick. Vibration makes me sick. I'm in this RV, and when I get home, I'm going to be sick because the vibration of the engine and then just the general movement is making me dizzy right now. I wear these glasses not because I can't see, but because I have binocular vision disorder. So if I take them off, you'll probably see my pupils move around. These glasses have a prism in them to realign my vision so I can actually see. Otherwise, everything's double. And that took me 26 months to figure out on my own, because no one at the Army suggested I get tested for that, even though they treated me for glaucoma. I can't walk on snow. I'm from the Midwest. We lived in the snow as a kid. The vibration from walking on snow just makes me fall over, and then I have to run to the bathroom and get sick. I could not be anywhere near power tools at the time I got sick, almost for the first 2 years. Just being anywhere within the vicinity of a power tool or a motorcycle or any loud noises would just, it was awful. I'd have to run to the bathroom and I would get sick. And when I think that this happens to children and they just say kids have anxiety or they're depressed, I have a problem with that, because I have the words to explain what's happening and the scientific community isn't listening. And that's a shame. And neither is the medical, and neither is the Army, and neither is the federal government. I cannot get my workers' compensation paperwork filled out by Madigan at Joint Base Lewis McChord because, according to my doctor, legal told them not to. I can't have the diagnosis in the computer system for COVID vaccine injury because it doesn't exist. The codes for COVID vaccine injuries are not in the military health system electronic records. So if we look at my records, we clearly see that my doctor's writing the information, but according to the computer, I'm perfectly fine because it doesn't exist. You know, I have spoken with people that state that there is a population of people in the United States that actually had a full before and after record, and that's our special operators. And all of that information is buried under HIPAA. I have tried to FOIA that. I got nowhere. The information is there. It's not being released. And I can understand why. I don't want to see an end to the vaccine program. I believe in the vaccine program. I'm old enough to remember measles and polio and all these other horrible diseases. And the problem I have is that when a mother says their child was fine yesterday and now they're not, she's telling the truth. And I can explain that. And so can all the other 10,000 people who are sick. And we're not a huge population. We're a minor population. We're discriminated against. We are discriminated by the governor of Washington. We've written and requested multiple times to speak with him. Marilyn Strickland, she not only wouldn't help me, but she called the law on me because I told her I'd call her office every day until she helped me. The Attorney General, I have attempted to consult him on Facebook censoring our First Amendment rights to speak. People in the world have the right to talk about every disability except for COVID-injured vaccine or any other vaccine. We can't talk about it, our accounts get shut off. And when they stop shutting off our accounts, they just hid our information. Nobody sees it, it's buried. So the AI is automatically filtering out everything we have to say. We can't even talk to each other in a group. Everything is censored. We had to make up little code words with carrot or it's ridiculous. You know, if I'm in a vestibular migraine support group, I can't say, hey, you know, you should really get checked out for all of these things that you just managed to have happen to you, like, I don't know, binocular vision disorder, severe hypertension, extreme uric acid levels, because that's what happened to me. I had to buy a microscope to check my blood and my urine to find out what was wrong with me. And when I did, I could clearly see extreme amounts of uric acid in my blood. So at that point, I bought test meters. And my level of uric acid on a daily basis was 16. Normal is under 7. So every day for probably 2.5 years before I figured this out, I was suffering from high levels of uric acid. It's something that they could have tested had they actually taken the time to find out what the commonalities is between all of us, and they have not. If they had to research it, then they would understand the problem, and then they'd have to fix the problem.
What advice do you give to people watching now who are suffering deeply? Because I know you are as well, but you seem very switched on, and can you give some advice to
Sure.
broken people out there?
Well, so my master's degree is in computer science, and as a result of 23 years of documentation of systems, I can walk into any environment, well, I could before I got sick, and understand it within a few minutes just by reading manuals of what the system documentation is. I don't have to know about a system. I just have to know the basics of a system. So when I lost my memory, it was more like the memory is there. It's the links to get to those memories that's broken. So it's like if you walked into a library and there's a card catalog there. Someone took the card catalog out, threw it on the floor, lit it on fire, dumped water on it, and stuck it back in my head. And that's how I have to find my memories. So subconsciously, I must have figured this out in the beginning, because I started taking photos and screenshots of the weirdest things. And I found the day I figured out I lost my memory. I'd missed an appointment. See, everything in my life was digital because that's my job. Everything was written down. Everything was on a calendar. I can remote work. I didn't have to physically go into work when I was well enough to work. And I missed an appointment. I didn't ever remember going to physical therapy. I'd been there for 6 weeks. And then I had to sit and think of what else I lost. I don't remember my daughter's wedding. It's gone. I don't remember birthdays. I don't remember Christmas. It's just gone since January of 2021. You know, people remember Insurrection Day. I remember the day I lost my memory. I couldn't tell you what happened on Insurrection Day. I've been trying to figure that out for 3 years, and it just doesn't make sense to me. It does not. But you're going to have to learn how to remember again. And I'm working on AI myself, because they now have like a personal assistant. And I am treating it just like a computer system. I log my memories when I want to remember it, because if I don't have a picture of it, or I didn't write it down, I will never be able to get that memory back. Now, if one of my family members knows enough about a certain situation, they can tell me, and then it'll start to come back. But just being able to recall a random question, I can't do it. Yeah, I had to make myself sick to be where I am today. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk.
After what's happened to you, will you ever take another vaccination again?
I will. I will not take a mRNA vaccine. I will take the tetanus. I will take the common ones that were actually created from a virus. I really think the problem with this one is that Caitlin Caroco's work, she started this vaccine in 1984. She worked on it for 20 years. Tony Fauci also worked on the COVID vaccine. It says so in her own Nobel Prize interviews. She was a demoted scientist with the lowest salary at the University of Pennsylvania. And her technology was said that they would never use it. It was too dangerous to use, and they shelved her project in 2007. Then she attended a conference where she learned about using pseudouridide as the binding agent for the spike protein. And that's when she started to make headway into this vaccine. There's a lawsuit. She's being sued for stealing that technology. But the University of Pennsylvania has generated over $3 billion, last time I looked, in profits from their licensing of the technology. And they have done nothing to stop and find out why our DNA is incompatible with her mRNA instructions. It's no different than any computer program. It's like I had a blue screen of death on a computer, and I will never be the same again. I'm just stuck in safe mode, just like Windows 98. I can't get out. And if I could get access to an AI that has the DNA compiler then I could run my DNA file up against her program, because she only tested it against the DNA of one person. Now, the problem with that is that anyone that has those ancient genes they talked about on the news, I have the CC on the Delta 32 allele. So I have a full copy of one of the genes called CCR5. And that makes my immune system completely different than 99% of the world's population. They don't have that. So to test our DNA may also actually find a cure to stopping COVID in a real vaccine based on actual antibody and science, not the religion of COVIDism that it has become.
Thank you for telling your story. Thank you for sitting here. I'm so sorry that you got hurt. And thank you for your advice. And can you read, or is that too much?
I can read.
I'm going to give you a book, okay?
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm going to do that now.
Thank you.